LAProbate with our weekly Probate Weekly, I should say, with our Zoomcast, probateweekly.com. Every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We live stream it on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you're there, you can comment if it's live, and we'll be able to respond to your comments live. If you're on the Zoom, of course, you can put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself when appropriate. Our goal here is to be participative and to teach. We have people who are brand new wanting to learn about probate. We also have practitioners who are in the hunt every day, like I am, and like our guest today, Taunee, is, who want to learn more tricks, learn best practices, share ideas, and work together. So we do this everywhere from brand new investors to experience, brand new realtors to experience, and wholesalers as well. Love to have you guys participate and be successful. So normally I do a little bit of content today, but I have a feeling today we're going to have a rich time to spend with a friend of mine. Taunee English is a Navy veteran. Thank you for your service. She is a mucky in a bunch of organizations. You're with the Greater LA Association of Realtors, our local, formerly BHGLAR, now GLAR. What's your position with GLAR, Taunee?
I'm treasurer for this year and next year.
Got it. Thank you.
And the regional chair of Beverly Hills next year.
I just paid my dues, by the way, so thank you for. I got the invoice, paid it, worked out very nicely. Thank you.
Good job. Good member.
And then you're also on something in the CAR, California Association of Realtors. You're a delegate or something?
I'm a state director for CAR. I'm serving as the chair of communication advisory, and I'm on strategic planning next year.
And then in addition to that, you're also on Women's Council, which is an NAR affiliated group, I think, if I know it correctly.
Yes, it is. I'm the president of the Los Angeles Beverly Hills Network. And it's, it is an NAR affiliate and CAR affiliate.
This is a lady with more business cards than you can imagine. She also is a CPA, I think, or accountant by background, or trade originally.
Yes, sir.
And most important of all, and a devoted daughter to a mother. The two of them together, if you watch them on social media, they are quite the stylish pair. I think mom, I hate to say it, but I think mom steals all the eyeballs from you when you post like that.
Yeah. She wears more jewelry and more accessories. I'm too lazy.
And she also sells real estate under the flag Alliance Real Estate as a brokered through eXp Realty. And she's most importantly to me, she's also a fellow USC Trojan, fight on. So thank you for all that. Thank you for your service throughout all the real estate organization. But most importantly today, the reason I brought her on is in addition to all that, or I should say the focus, all that supports her business. And she has kind of a unique role, whereas my business is almost all in probate. I do some trust work because there's a little bit of overlap. Taunee really focuses on trust real estate and some of those distinctions. She's developed some unique ways to generate business, as well as she's also a fiduciary. So she gets hired and or selected by estates and by attorneys to represent them. So really, I kind of a unique opportunity. And I literally had somebody today ask me about that position. And I said, well, hey, I'm actually interviewing a lady who does that today. So tune in to the live stream. So Taunee, thank you so much for being on our call today.
Well, thank you for having me. And by the way, he's the one who got me into EXP. He recruited
me. Oh, good. Blame me. Because, it is. And I just say, you are the only person I called to join the company. You're the only one. I have other people who joined my downline, really because I just wanted to work with you. I just found what you do fascinating. I think you set a really high standard and a high bar of professionalism, which I think is lacking in real estate in general, and lacking in probate specifically. And I just said, I want to work with this lady. I don't know how to do it. And this just came to me as a way to do that. So I'm really excited to have you on our team. Thank you, Taunee.
Likewise.
So give us just a little background, where you grew up, and then how you got into real estate, and then how you got into trust real estate.
Okay, I'm a California native. I was raised in the Valley, but my parents are from Louisiana, so I have a Southern accent meets the Valley girl accent. I used to run a CPA firm, and during that time, we would tell a lot of our clients to invest in real estate, to fund their pension plans, to house their businesses, to pay for their kids. Instead of having their kids go pay for dorms, we would buy apartments and condos or houses for their kids while they're in college. And so when I saw that I was leaving money on the table, I decided to get into real estate. But I got in originally as a loan officer, then short sale queen, and now trust and probate.
Got it. Now, in some ways we do similar things, but it's also kind of like you're kind of like a parallel angle or a perpendicular angle to what I do. Literally today, I'm writing an offer with one of my investors on a listing that you represent the estate on, where you're not just the listing agent, but you're also the fiduciary. Can you explain for who would not know, what is a fiduciary and then what is your role in that?
Okay, so I'm a professional fiduciary. It is a license you get from California. It's a relative new license, been around for, I don't know, under 10 years. And it allows you, that professional fiduciary license allows you to be either the administrator of the estate or personal representative of a estate when it's probate without a will. Also allows you, if you wanted to be a conservator, a trustee, which I don't do. I always tell people that I work with dead people. My clients tend to be already passed away. I know, bad joke, but that's what I say. So I don't do conservatorship with the license. What I do is mostly serve as the PR, the personal representative, or the administrator, executor, or the successor trustee. Because I do have clients, estate planning attorneys will call me and say that a particular parent don't trust their kids with the estate. So they'll write me in to be the successor trustee when they pass away. So I do trust administration. And that comes back more because I ran an accounting firm and did a lot of business management and trust administration. So that's where it comes from there. But mainly I do serve more as a personal representative for the probate, which is what, Bill's talking about, is that for like this next listing, as a personal representative, I get to be the seller of the listing. And if there's not any issues, I'm also the listing agent. So I serve as both when it comes to probate or trust sales.
Do you see doing both as a way to make some money for your time and maybe lower your fee to the estate? Or is it that you trust yourself more than you do another listing agent, or just easier for you to work with yourself? I would think that's part of it, right? It's just easier to be the agent than it is to work with an agent, right?
Well, what sometimes happens is if I, like in this particular case, sometimes I will waive my PR fee because a personal rep actually gets paid the same amount of money as a probate attorney does.
Now, hold on one second. Say that one more time, because that's a big point here, that theoretically go ahead.
Personal representative our fee is the same amount as the probate attorney's fee. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, in this case here, only time that I would do both sides when I'm being the PR and also the listing agent is when I waive my PR fee, a huge percentage of it, because I'm going to give it to a probate attorney. Because there's not enough money in the state, or in this case, I have two probate attorneys involved, and only because two siblings are fighting and things like that, which is why they have me as the PR, as the unbiased third party. And so in that case here, in order for both attorneys to get paid, I waive my PR fee in that particular case. And that's why I'm serving really as a listing agent. And I get a small fee to taking care of all the accounting things that's going to be needed to close the estate out. But yeah, that's the times when I would serve as both, when I have to waive the fee or reduce the fee a little bit.
So as a buyer's agent, looking at a property listed by you, where you're the listing agent, but also the fiduciary, how should I look at it? Or do I look at it any differently than any other listing?
No, because I put it on there that I am the seller. Just like you would say, the seller has a real estate license or related to the seller. That's what I put on there, that I work as both. And I like it, by the way, because, I don't know if a lot of you work with probate or trust and everything. It's kind of cool when you get to pick, you the seller, and you get to pick the offers and not have, I don't know if you guys experience this or not. I know I have, where you're the listing agent on probate, and then a family member would say, oh, my best friend wants to buy it, and I want them to buy it at a really low price. Well, as the PR, that's the extra seller, I can stop all that and make sure I am selling at the highest and best use price. Because you have a lot of out-of-state, family members, and you have, just out-of-state family members that don't know this real estate market. And this makes things nice and smooth when you actually are signed as the PR of the state.
Now,
and I have the final say. I sign everything.
So I would think that that more likely than not, you're getting involved as a fiduciary when there is some conflict, meaning attorneys bring you in because they need you to act where the family can't. Oftentimes, I would think that's because there's two or more conflicting heirs? Is that the most common case?
Yes. So yeah, I tend to come on board is either the family members are not local, or when you have, a bunch of siblings that are, are in conflict or fighting, things like that, they're bringing on board. And that's because of my real estate background and my accounting background. And then what I do is I'm very transparent. I submit all offers in, even when I get, because I have a lot of investors, and then some of my probates are tear downs and things like that. So I do put them on the market, because I did, have a NER approved ethics course. So I do make sure that, I do show all offers to both probate attorneys. I said, these are all the offers that came in. Here's the ones I'm representing, and these are the ones represented by, other buyers agents, and in most of the case, my buyers tends to be paid more. Not in this particular listing that's coming up right now. I have buyer agents that's coming in a higher amount, so we will be accepting that offer. But I do make sure I'm very transparent in everything, and when I do dual agencies and stuff like that, I am very transparent. I make sure all the offers are presented to the probate attorneys.
Do you find sometimes as an agent that you deal with other fiduciaries who are not as transparent?
Oh, yeah. I mean, actually, the course I created for NER, and that's NER approved, of course, is called the Real Estate Court, the People's Court for Agents. And one of the cases we reenacted was dual agency, where you will have realtors, because they want to double in it, they did not submit the highest offer to their seller.
Right.
So that, that happens quite a bit. I calls I'm getting right now, pretty much every day since I put this listing on market. Oh yeah, I pay you a bonus on the side if you take this offer and things like that. I'm like, no, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done business all over Southern California. I grew up in Orange County. I worked in the Inland Empire, and I moved here about 25 years ago. This is the only market where I would be offered bonuses on the side. And I thought, you just offered me a bribe and you're on the telephone. Like, are you trying to get me arrested? Is this just a trick? What? And people throw that out like it's nothing.
Yeah.
To me, it was always an insult. Like, you're saying I'm going to sell out my integrity for whatever amount of money you're offering. It just seems cheap to be like that. But I guess people must go for it from time to time, right? It must
Well,
happen.
they have to, because I get offered that like every day since Saturday. I've been, pretty much every day I've been offered that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the market's also changed. Like when I started to now, every listing, everybody sees all of them. And so the competition's more intense versus in the days when I started, you had like a book, and the book got updated every other week, basically. Now everything is so transparent. I feel like, that there are people who look for an advantage, but you don't want your advantage to be cheating or bribing somebody. That seems to be a very thin way to be successful. So we got a couple of questions here. If I could go down here, Chris Wilson says, "What made you want to become a fiduciary, especially in California?" That's an interesting question, Chris. Taunee, how'd you end up being a fiduciary? What was it about that was of interest to you?
I went to, I don't know if you guys know Paul Horn, but he's like one of the top probate attorneys here. And he actually created a course, a certified for California Association of Realtors, a certification, trust and probate certification. And I was at one of his classes, and when he was teaching about probate, how to get listings from probate, then I realized that, in some cases, by the time that the probate is in process and is filed with the court, that person already has a realtor.
Right.
And when he said that a PR gets paid the same amount as an attorney, I'm like, well, there you go. You might as well become the PR, go that route and get, be PR business from the probate attorneys, and you can get the listing that way too.
Yeah. Now, that said, getting those listings as the PR requires kind of knowing where to go. So you've established, I would think, relations with attorneys that are based on time and experience. You just can't, buy leads on Facebook for attorneys to refer you this business. This is something really you earned.
Yeah, because that's what I, started looking at the numbers, and yeah, they already have listing agents already. Right. So that was my workaround.
Very good. Rama asked a question. Now, I think I know the answer. Is it like a FSBO? The answer is it's yes or no. You list the property or you don't. In most cases, though, I would say you're listing these properties because you really have to as part of your fiduciary responsibility, correct?
Yes, I can list it as a FISBO. Just answer your question. Yes, I can do
Oh,
that since I
oh,
am the seller on it. But no, I do tend to put it on the MLS
okay. And
of
why,
most of the listings.
and why is that?
It's transparency.
Yeah, yeah,
So I have to show proof, that I did every possible thing to market this property and get the highest, best price for it.
right, right. It's fascinating to me how many attorneys don't know the rules that are required. And here you're doing this naturally, but there are times in probate court that there'll be. I've been trying to reach this one attorney on a case where they're trying to sell it with court approval, not advertising it and not listing it. And I just said, the probate attorney is not going to approve your petition. The judge isn't going to approve your petition. And of course, today the notes came out and it's being denied because they didn't do the work. So while it's maybe an extra step or two, it is one that provides you with transparency. You can say to your client, yeah, I tried to get you top dollar and here's what we did, including listing the property, right?
Right. And also too, by the way, all my listings has always been full court approval. I mean, I'm full authority. I never had to get, knock on wood, never had to get court confirmation.
Yeah, that's a tough process. I mean, it's not fun. And I think it really costs the estate a lot of money when they go that route. I've seen attorneys say, I recommend court approval because it protects the petitioner, the executive administrator, from claims of selling it short. That might be, but man, you're going to pay for it with attorney's fees and filing fees and delays and just a nightmare, I would think.
Yeah, so attorneys like it when, I tend to get full authority because of my background. And so that's kind of the part of the pitch that the attorneys use to convince the clients to use me as a PR. It's because of my background, more often than not, I would get full authority and we could avoid, court confirmation.
Got it. Got a question from Chris Wilson, which is, do you find a lot of multi-units that become available in probate?
Yes, because it turns out there's a lot of people who believe that a will is enough to avoid probate. And it's not in California. You need to put it in a trust. So yes, you do find multifamily. I mean, there's one probate that's been going on for 4 years. He had laundromats, multifamily units, commercial buildings, land, everything. And it's going through probate. You got Prince and Aretha Franklin, all their stuff going into probate. Yeah.
Yeah, and with all the attorneys they hired and spent money on, it's just a shame. Prince and Aretha Franklin. I think Michael Jackson also was probate. I don't think he had a trust.
Yeah, because they seem to think a will is enough.
Yeah, it's just all that money and the legacy they could have left that gets chewed up by these attorneys and court costs and delays, and it's just crazy. So let's see. Take one with inventory. One question Goodwin asked is, how do we get into the list of possible buyers of assets, such as your properties or notes?
I'm sorry?
Goodwin is an investor, and he's asking, how can he get onto a list of possible buyers of assets you might be selling?
I have people email me. And so what I do, I have people email me and I have an investor list, right? And so when I first get a property, I do send it out to all the investors I have on there, especially when it's a tear down though. I tend to do that when there are tear downs or, fixers or things like that, or multi-units. So I send it out to them before I put it on the market. They tend to get it 3 or 4 days before, because I haven't did pictures, anything like that yet. And I tell them, give me the highest and best offer. And I do send them, initial pictures that I taken before I have my professional photographer. I send the prelim, I give them the beginning number, and I treat it like an auction. But I do tell them that I do have to hold at least one open house, and I won't review offers the day after. So they have a whole week to, do the due diligence and stuff like that to check out what would be the permits and zonings and things like that. So they do get a few days before I put it on the market, the investors.
And you have one, for example, coming up where you have open house on Sunday,
right?
And then you accept offers by no earlier than Monday. So any investor who's going to buy it, and it's a tear down in that case, they can show up on Sunday and decide if they want to go forward or not. But then, boom, the offers are due, and you're moving forward at that point.
Yeah, the people already submitted the offers in already, so this is just gonna be, just seeing the property in person, because I do
Right.
provide 3D virtual tours and all the photos and stuff like that.
Right.
But yep, I have a rule. I have to at least hold one open house. Please come see it, physically, and then next day I'll accept the offers.
Nice. Do you hold the open house yourself, or do you have an agent do it for you, or how do you manage that?
It depends. This one I'm doing myself because
Whoa.
it's a Labor Day weekend, so I couldn't get anyone to do it.
I might pop by and say hi. Be
Oh,
careful. Okay, so if someone wanted to get on your list of investors, what's the best email they should contact you at?
I will be putting it in the chat box.
Great.
My info.
Great. And then we'll put that, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, we'll put it there as well down the road, and I'll read it out loud. So PR stands for personal representative, correct?
Yes.
So
It does. I'm sorry. Yeah, it stands for.
Thank you.
Yeah, PR stands for personal representative, and that is that's when it's a pure probate. There's no will, there's nothing like that. Then the next one on there is administrator, and that's when there's a will, administrator and our executor, and then you have just trustee, successor trustee when there's actual trust. And that doesn't go through probate. Those are nice and clean.
So as the fiduciary, you could be the administrator, executor, or the successor trustee. Just depends on what kind of case it is, and they're bringing you into that case at that point. Got
Correct.
it. Okay. So let's see. Somebody said, Frank says he thinks Prince is the state's probate as well. I believe.
Yeah, it is. Prince is probate. Yep.
Christopher asked, what's the advantage of presenting an offer if you're going to place the property on the MLS? Well, what's the advantage of presenting an offer? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking, Chris. We submit offers. She gets them. What she said was she's giving all the offers to the seller, to her attorneys, to whoever's involved in the estate, so they see all the offers. She doesn't hide a high one and substitute in her good friend. I think that's what we're saying. You submit them all so they can see everything and
what can I do for you?
And they can be clear that you're looking after the best interest.
That, and maybe the question is, because I have investors ask that, because they want a break, and that is not my fiduciary responsibility to give them a break or a leg up or a discount. My fiduciary responsibility is to get the highest, best offer for the property.
Right.
It's the only thing I do for investors is give you, the first, everybody get in on that first day. I get the listing, I give you all the information before, and you have 5 or 6 days before the public has it.
Got it.
And you have time to really check and see, because most of my listings tend to have, R2, R3, R4 zonings and things like that. So you can really check and see if you can build multiple units. So I always market my things as the highest and best use.
Jasmine asks, how do you get probate listings? Now, I think I give 11 different ways you can get probate listings. Class takes an hour, and then I do each of the 11 in about an hour. So Jasmine, no, there's a lot of different ways one can get probate listings, just like any other listing. I think the thing that I might ask though is, obviously, Taunee, you've earned a reputation with some of the attorneys. Is there anything that you do marketing wise that's unique to put yourself in a position to be hired as a fiduciary so that you can get that business yourself?
I market to other professional fiduciaries.
Nice.
I market to probate and estate planning attorneys. I do calls with estate planning attorneys. I joined all the bar associations and market to to attorneys. But what they tend to like about me is the point that I could take over the PR or the trustee part of it, because that tends to hold them up when you don't have a professional person who can close an estate out. Because you need to be able to find all the financial documentation. You need to be able to open the bank accounts up, transfer things, set up federal ID numbers. A lot of the county and tax things, I can look at a deceased tax return and figure out all the documentation I need to find and all the banks and brokerages I need to call, in order to get this estate closed. So they tend to the real estate side, like secondary, is more the PR side that they want me to do, or the trustee side.
I also think attorneys look for people who are specialists, and you really specialize in a narrower piece of probate than I have, I think, in some regard. Not that you don't do other listings, but you've really become a specialist with trusts, and in particular as a fiduciary, right? That's kind of unique. There's a couple of them I'm aware of, but you really put yourself into that niche in a hard way.
Well, there's one thing too that you guys may want to think about with trusts and doing trust sales is that I don't know if you do this or not, but what I do with my buyers, when I represent buyers, I refer them to 3 estate planning attorneys, right? And I would tell them to this is the most important investment they have, and they need to protect their kids' financial future. And I use a quote from one of my estate planning attorneys who says that, probate is like filing a civil lawsuit against yourself and your heirs. So
now stop a second. You gotta say that one again, because I quote this, I think daily now. This quote is so good, you guys. You gotta listen to this one more time. Say that again, Connie, so I can pay attention. You're right.
Probate is like filing a civil lawsuit against yourself and your heirs. So get a trust. Yeah. But let me tell you the cool thing about them getting a trust, and you telling them to get a trust. I get myself written into the trust to sell the property. So you're creating yourself a future accounts receivable. And as you know, sometimes when you sell that buyer property, they don't use you later on when they're ready to sell the property. Either, because they're using the local realtors, there's a lot more farming in that area. But when you sell them the property, you have it put in the trust, and you get yourself written into the trust to sell the property. And they don't have to die, by the way. They could be upsizing or downsizing or getting a divorce, but you're written into the trust to be the agent to sell it when they are ready to sell. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about with that?
Genius. No, I love it. I'm just
so you create yourself future accounts receivable. And when I'm doing that too, I also tell, like, especially with COVID, I had told realtors to call, run title on all their past clients to see if their property's in a trust. If it's not, pick up the phone and you tell them about the civil lawsuit they're filing right now with their heirs, and explain the importance of a trust, and then refer them. And this is how you create relationships with estate planning attorneys, and who also do probate too, to get more business for them. And you tell them, and you get yourself written to the trust, and you ask them, by the way, what is your parents' address? So I can check and see if their property's in a trust, because most likely the parents going to die before they do, right? And then you explain to them, what happens when it goes to probate. Your parents, go through probate. I mean, you're going to be spending all this unnecessary money that's mandated by the state, to the probate attorney, which could be coming to you guys, and, it takes 9 months, it could take a lot longer to close a probate estate than a trust. I mean, they pass away. It's like a regular sale. It's on the market 30 days. They can close 30 or 60 days later versus a probate, and all your stuff is public knowledge when it goes through probate. The creditors, everyone gets first dibs on the money before the heirs do. The creditors do, the attorneys, the courts, everybody gets first dibs, and it's public.
This is gold. And for those of you listening, I do the 11 ways to make sales as an agent in probate. And one of them is this, what I call consumer direct living trust business. And what Taunee laid out for you in about 2 minutes is a real estate agent already in business who's doing 5-10 deals a year. This is the easiest way to add 2 or 3 deals in the next 90 days to 6 months. If you just did what she said, to recap it, go through your client list, pull the public records, see those that don't have a trust, encourage them to write one, write yourself in the trust, ask about their parents, get them in a trust. I mean, all of this we could talk about for hours. This is what she does in her business. And so when you ask, how do you get listings? It's a lot of little details like this. It's not a magic wand she pushed that got her the business. It's really one at a time, these relationships that she's built with people. They already like her, they already trust her, their attorney already referred it to them to some level. Why not protect their assets? And I remember I asked Taunee this question, and she said, well, who's better to list the property than me? I already sold the house. I know the house. We did the inspections. I know the layout. We have the old appraisal. I can look at all that information to start with. It's just genius. So hope you guys pay attention to that, or maybe if you're watching it online, go back and re-listen to that, because that is just gold.
Yeah, let's add to that, right? So when I'm doing my pitch to the buyer, right? Because now you're becoming more of a trusted real estate advisor for them. And you're saying, yes, who else will sell this property at the highest price?
Right,
Been through the inspections with your help. You found the property.
right,
I mean, I know everything about this property as well as you do.
right.
So
You
I said,
just
I
cut
will
through
be
the
the best
whole,
person to, I'll be the best person to sell this property when you're ready to sell.
exactly. That's fantastic. That's gold right there. Just gold. Okay. Um, Question from Christopher. How often do you have a problem asset that you can't find a buyer for?
I'm sorry.
How often, or if ever, do you have a problem asset that you can't find a buyer for?
Hasn't happened.
I had a client who had a bunch of land, about 30 lots, and two or three were literally worthless. That we couldn't, you can't give them away without somebody accepting them. And so we literally got a buyer on one property to accept two other properties along with it, just to get them off my client's hands through the
Yeah.
probate process. So, okay, well, good for you.
Because if we
Let's
can't sell it, you just have to sit on it and rent it out until it's ready to be sold but so far, no, that hasn't happened yet, especially here in the LA area.
Do you ever see promissory notes that go into probate for disposition?
Yes. I mean, I've sold businesses and business interests in probate. I sold businesses. And so, yeah, promissory notes is part of probate, and we have to negotiate because basically it depends on what assets you have that you can sell. Even collections, when we sell as a PR, I have to sell every asset, in
And
order
so,
to close in order to pay debtors off, because the debt, the creditors get paid first, then before I can give any money to and the probate attorneys before I can give money to the heirs. So I have to find the money somewhere in order to liquidate that estate.
and sometimes it's easy to sell some of the personal property. I've seen probate selling antiques,
Yep.
collectibles,
Yep.
guns is a big one.
Oh, well, guns
Challenging.
is have to be careful, but yeah, no, I have to sell everything. I mean, do estate sales, garage sales, depending on what area is at, everything, clean it out, a full
Yeah.
concierge service.
Yeah. Very good. The same thing. Very good. So again, we're similar, but a little different angle. Maybe you're a little higher income side on this, and I'm doing more probate, which tends to be a little lower
Uh-huh.
income.
Right.
But,
Whatever, Mr. Gross.
as bougie as you are, Taunee.
Uh-huh. Right.
I had the whole fancy office thing going on there and all that. Um, what kind of marketing or scripts do you have in order to get probate leads? And I'll just put a quick plug in that, I don't sell coaching. We're not selling anything here today. We're not going to push you anything. There's nothing that I get any referral fee on. I do recommend though, alltheleads.com if you're a realtor or investor, when you get into probate, they have a great website with a lot of material on it. They have a great YouTube channel, and they also have on there role plays and masterminds. They do every week for an hour, masterminds every month, a role play for an hour. And they're all on their YouTube channel and on their website. Taunee, do you have any particular place you send people who are interested in getting into the probate space? Where can they get sales resources like scripts and dialogues and training and that kind of
It's
thing?
exactly what you said. That's a great place to go. I do tell them also to it'd be helpful for them to get the certification through California Association of Realtors.
Yeah.
I mean, that Paul really is a character, and he really takes you through the probate side of it, and he gives you a little bit about the trust. So yeah, all leads, that website's great. And then also, I say get the certification.
Yeah, I think the value isn't the certification, it's the knowledge. I think Paul does a
Right.
great job explaining the probate process, the timeline, the key vocabulary, that I don't think the stamp is worth much, but I think when you learn it, I think he does a
It's
great
right.
job laying it out.
It's the vocabulary, because you need to understand the vocabulary. You need to understand the timelines, especially if you're going to speak to an attorney. If you want to get referrals from attorneys, they gotta know that you understand probate.
Exactly. Got a question. What's the best advice for a first-time home buyer to get a multi-unit out of probate? Chris, I'll say this, having done some, I'd love to hear your answer, Tanya, as well. Mine is, probate is a place for, in my experience, more seasoned investors, not a
Yeah.
great place for a first-time investor, because you're really buying the property with very little contingency and typically little time for inspections. And so you have to really know what you're
And
getting
no
into,
disclosures. And no
and no
disclosures.
disclosures. So generally, it's not the best place for a first-time buyer in probate. What I tell people is, if you find a great deal, and there's a title issue, bring it to me. Oftentimes the solution's probate. And so what happens is I'll find a first-time investor, will find a property, the grandson's in it, grandma and grandpa died, left it to kids, kids have all died. The grandson is the heir, but he doesn't have his paperwork together, and I can help him get through the paperwork, maybe using Taunee as a fiduciary or referring it to an attorney or a service. That's where we can help a first-time investor. So I think rather than say, I'm going to prospect every day in probate as a first-time buyer, I would say, if you find a property that has a probate, call me, text me, email me, or Taunee, get somebody who can give you some good advice on what to do. Make sure you'll get yourself in any kind of trouble, or make sure it's a good opportunity. What do you think, Taunee? What would you say to a first-time investor?
No, I agree with you. I mean, unfortunately, some people think that probates are the best, you can get a major discount on it, but not necessarily. It really depends on who's representing the estate and how many siblings, how many kids and heirs are involved. Because that fiduciary or that PR is under a lot of pressure to make sure they can get the most money as possible, since they have to pay out so much in probate and court fees. So it's not always the best deal.
Yeah. Jim asks, contrasting PRs and administrators, who's more motivated? It's been said that if a property is in a living trust, perhaps with a spouse in the household, they're inclined to keep the house. Well, of course, husband, wife, one spouse dies. More commonly, they'll keep the property, though sometimes I've sold houses where the widow wants to move on, and I had one who wanted to move to Arizona, be with her sister or whatever. So certainly if everybody's dead, more likely to sell, but not guaranteed. If one's still in the property, still somewhat. And trust in general, hard to say. If there's a spouse still there, oftentimes they don't want to sell the property. So I don't know, there's no real fixed answer there. It's all kind of odds, I think, as you're looking at business.
Well, the fixed answer could be make sure that you're written into their trust so that you can sell the property. Because I've had it where the one spouse passed away and I'm in the trust and the wife calls me up saying, okay, I want to go ahead and sell the property and move back to where the rest of my family's at. And I got the call because I was written into the trust to sell it.
So I'm getting all kinds of shout outs to you, Taunee, that I'm not you got a lot of fans on the call here today. Go ahead on, sister. She's dropping bars. Okay, she's doing great. Her contact info is in the chat box, and then we'll put that on our social media as well. But Taunee, you got a lot of fans, and a lot of friends here. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I knew I picked you. This was gonna be a good one. Okay. Renee asks, if the spouse's name's not in the house, good question, though not 100% sure. So in California, there's a process. Sometimes there'll be a trust, but the property's not in the trust. Or the husband has the property and maybe he's married, maybe he's single and gets married. And then there's an argument to be made that the wife is entitled to some or all of the property. And there's a lawsuit filed, right? And so those are various court matters that, we're not here to talk about the legal decisions. But do you find yourself in those situations where people are litigating and then they want to sell the property, whether how to divide the cash is really their argument, and then you're the temporary administrator, I guess, to sell the property? Does that come up in your business?
Well, not that necessarily, because that would be the attorney will deal with that. Only time I would be brought in is to be the listing agent on it. Right. Or like in one case, yes, actually there is one that's coming up right now that they're thinking about bringing me on as both. It's the stepmother and then the kids from another marriage. And yes, he has 3 triplexes that he had before he married the stepmother. And she's not on any of those properties, but she is. And then they have one property that she lives in, but she's not on that either. But so it's going to be, I have to help negotiate all that because, that's going to be interesting. But yes, in that case there, that's not smart of the wife not to get herself in there, but that is not our place. We're not the attorneys.
This can be complicated. Regina asks also, a home doesn't go to probate as long as one spouse is still living, correct? Maybe yes, maybe no.
It depends on how it's deeded.
Correct.
Like in this case here, it was his separate property before they got married.
Right. And oftentimes you'll see, Bob and Mary Smith as tenants in common, and they do that because maybe one of them or both of them had prior marriages. Yep. And they want the value to stay in their separate estates. to pass on to their separate children. I had that happen. My mother
Yeah.
was widowed and remarried. In her trust, she wanted her share of the assets to go to her family, and my stepfather wanted his assets to go to his family. Makes sense. Of course, you want to leave things to your natural children, maybe. I don't know. Everybody's a little different, but so it depends on how they have title. And then there are cases where tenants in common is specified. In some cases, like Taunee said, maybe he owned as sole and separate, and they get married and just buy it as Bob and Mary Smith, husband and wife, don't specify. So another question is, well, it was his own. Now, is it still his own? Did he move it into community property? That's why you have attorneys. That's why you have
That's
courts.
where attorneys come in.
That's why you have judges, and it's never good. There's no good answer to that one. It's going to cost you some money. So, so the answer is there's no 100%. And best thing to do is clarify what you want in writing in the proper channel, which is really a living trust. That way, there's no real disagreement. Regina asked for the alltheleads.com website. I put that in the website, in the chat notes, but it's alltheleads.com. Chuck, you took the car probate course and said it was a great instructor, so you enjoyed that. And I think I might talk to Paul all the time. He's a fantastic probate teacher. Now, I don't think I'm insulting him. I've said this to him directly. He's not the world's best expert on marketing for realtors, how to get probate business. That's not his business, right? So you're left with the knowledge, but you're left with some good tools. His service, I think, is really good. His database program is really good for the money, but it's not going to get you business. You have to find a way to get there. So just be careful that you don't kind of oversell yourself in what you're getting into. Renee asks, it's Paul Horn, Horn. Chuck, you want to say something?
Yeah. I found the information incredibly good as far as, you're right, as far as, okay, now that I've passed this test with high numbers, what do I do now?
Right.
So what I'm doing is I'm starting to send out those attorney type letters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, also I say go back to your clients. I would say go look at your database and run title on all your past clients and see which one who doesn't have their stuff in the trust.
Yeah, which is most of them. So
yeah,
I'm gonna do that as well. Thank you very much for that idea.
And Chuck, you're a colleague of mine in the XP, correct?
I'm sorry?
You're with the XP as well?
Yes.
You and I chatted in the workplace. And what do you president-elect of?
Santa Clarita, let me say it correctly, since Women's Council of Realtors, Santa Clarita Valley Network.
Oh, that's right, Chuck. I saw you at Network 360.
If Taunee says that's correct, it's correct. If Taunee gives you the buzzer, you're in big trouble.
That's right. We took a picture together.
That's right. Yeah. That's it.
Nice. Okay, good. Well, thank you for your service to the community and to our profession. Renee asked a great question, which is, she's a new licensee. How did Taunee start out, and any advice would be appreciated?
Start out with the
As
probate?
a realtor, newly licensed realtor. Where would you start?
Yeah, because I had the accounting business, I just got my business from my clients and their employees and things like that. So to me, I always believe start at the, your sphere of influence, the whole world with the sphere of influence and stuff. So I was blessed to, because I deal with their finances, it's easy for them to trust me with giving them real estate advice.
Yeah, and Renee, I coach a lot of new agents. I coach a lot of agents who are rebooting their business, like I did a couple of years ago. And the first thing to do is do an assessment of your assets. What are they? And who do you know? Taunee, as an accountant, knew a lot of people, but she knew some professionals that she was able to leverage in a real estate business. And you know somebody, who is it that you know? Get that list together and analyze it and think about what value can you create for that group of people. I'd be glad to. I do offer free coaching or mentorship for a one-time phone call. Feel free to reach out to me. If you want to zoomwithbillg.com, zoomwithbillg.com, I'd be glad to talk to you and find out what you're working on and give you some direction if I can help in that regard. Okay, we just powered through. Do you have a list of trust attorneys you can share? No, I don't think Tai's going to give you her list of clients. But I would say, Jasmine, you can go into Google, search in your area, trust attorney, that will show up.
And start giving them calls.
Yeah. And another one
before you give them calls, though, go through your database of clients. Yeah. Okay. And see who doesn't have a trust. Because if you want to get on the phone with these attorneys and have them take your call and go for a quick coffee, it's kind of easier when you're going to bring them clients.
Right. Yeah, Jasmine, I think we've met, and I would say we don't want to cold call attorneys, ask them for business. Much better to bring them some business, and then you're going to develop a relationship with them, a professional relationship. We as realtors, if you've been in the business for a while, have past clients that need their service, and we want to find those and try to bring them to them. So for sure, I would try to go that way. Can I give you the website for a one-on-one mentorship? Yes, go to Zoom with Bill, my name, G.com, zoomwithbillg.com, and that will go right in my calendar, set an appointment with you. I'm particularly booked up in the month of September. I'm Jewish. I have 7 working days, and I'm dark because of holidays, so I'm a little booked there. So be patient with me during this month. But in general, I'm available. I'll do my best to make myself available for anybody who needs some counseling or some one-on-one support. Wow, we powered through a bunch of questions. At one point, I had like 15 backlogged. Anybody on the line have a question for Taunee? Again, she's a fiduciary, which is a unique opportunity for you to talk to somebody who you might be bringing offers to as a listing agent. And the flip side, she's obviously built a great business as a listing agent. Anybody have any questions for her that you'd like to help wrap up our phone call with? Oh, I should say, we do, for the question of the week, I offer a free Probate Weekly coffee mug. These are very desirable, they're very collectible, hard to get, worth millions of dollars. So I'm going to ask Taunee what the best question of the week was, and then we'll send whoever has the best question of the week a free Probate Weekly coffee mug. Anybody have any last questions here for Taunee before we let her go? She's a busy lady. I don't know about you, but I see her on social media. I'm exhausted. I see her. She's going to Chicago. She's with her mom. She's with her brother. I don't know, Taunee. I get tired of watching your life going on. And I know all these organizations you're involved with, and you're selling listing houses. So you got a chance to talk to a superstar here. I like this question. Michelle asks, what's the best part about your job?
I like educating. I mean, the tagline I like to use is educated realtor. So I'm really passionate about education because I think that the more educated a realtor is, the better that we can provide services to our clients in the community, and it raises our profile, because right now, as you know, people think that we're just greedy and about the commission. So I really love sharing information and providing as much education as possible to realtors and to my clients.
Yeah, you really do.
And that's what you do when you get on the phone with them. When you have that phone call, when you realize their stuff's not a trust, you're going to provide them with education on how to protect their family's future and their greatest asset, which is their real estate property.
That's why I liked right from the beginning. I saw you do a couple of webinars through, I think it was local board or the local MLS or something. I saw you do a couple with an attorney, with an accountant, I think. And I thought, wow, I'd love to work with somebody like that. And I'm privileged today to be able to work with you and consider you, in addition to a fellow Trojan and in addition to being a colleague, to consider you as a friend. So thank you for your service to our industry and to our community through your real estate services and your real estate knowledge. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, okay, we're going to wrap up with that. If you want to, I also interviewed Taunee one-on-one. If you go to the YouTube channel, which is Bill Gross EXP, you'll find the interview with Taunee and other related probate interviews and some wholesalers that I've interviewed recently for another series I'm working on. So hopefully that's informative as well. We do this call every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's available at probateweeklyepisodes.com or on YouTube and all the other channels. And then Tuesdays, I do real estate investing, zoom.com, Tuesday at 3 p.m., where we talk about real estate investors and flipping and wholesaling and things like that. So hope you learned something today about probate. If I can help, call me, text me, email me. If Taunee can help, her information is in the chat box. It'll be in the social media. Again, last time, Taunee, thank you so much. Have a great week, everybody, and I really appreciate your help.